So welcome, Lauren, to our second episode of our podcast. We're really excited to have you. And as always, the first question that we ask is just, who are you and what do you do?
I am Lauren Che. I just graduated from Hopkins. I studied material science and engineering, and I am the founder of The New Norm. And what we do is we recycle solo cups into wearable fabric.
And what sparked this idea?
Yeah, so I actually remember the exact moment. I was studying abroad. I was in my apartment, and my mom sent me this article that was in the LA Times, and it was just about recycling in the US. And I don't think I realized how recycling worked. I didn't really realize as a country we don't have the infrastructure to recycle. We send all of our recyclables to other countries. And as someone who recycles and puts stuff in the blue bin all the time, assuming that it would be made into a new product, I was shocked to find out that they were being shipped elsewhere. So yeah, that kind of started it. And then I just started researching all these companies that had been turning plastic water bottles and ocean waste into wearable fabric. And I was kind of just like, might as well give this a try and see if I can do it on my own. And that's when I went to FastForward and had my first conversation with Kevin. That was the fall of my junior year. Yeah.
And you guys are known for utilizing the red solo cups. Why
Yeah.
did you settle on that in particular?
Yeah, so I spent the summer after my junior year building a machine that processes these. Honestly, it can process different types of plastic. And initially, I started out with plastic water bottles because that's what a lot of people are doing. And it was just not working for the longest time. Solo cups are actually something we did for fun. We were on a college campus. We were like, wow, like college campuses use so many solo cups. I literally did some very basic tests in the lab and tried it with the machine, and it worked. So that was really by chance, but we were really lucky that it worked on the first go. Yeah.
Can you take us through like the most simplified version of how you even created a machine to do this? Because I have no idea how that works. And then also, how do you obtain the solo cups and kind of what your process kind of looks like without having to give away all of your business secrets?
Yeah. So I built an extruder. So an extruder is something that takes in an input, it heats it up, it melts it, and then extrudes out a filament. That's like really the most basic way to put it. And it's used for so many different things. This technology has existed for a long time now, used for plastic and polymer processing, food processing sometimes. It just has a lot of applications. So I definitely, pulled things from existing machines. You can find things in textbooks and research and stuff like that. I had never built anything before, so that was an experience within itself. I worked in my garage at home. It was a lot of trial and error and a lot of just kind of figuring out solutions on the spot. So that was my experience building the machine. It got a nice, pretty upgrade once we got back to school and had access to Wyman and, the machine shop and stuff like that. But in terms of how we obtain the solo cups, so this spring semester was actually our first time collecting. So we created this collection program. We worked closely with student organizations. So we had at the end of this, when classes were canceled, we had about 6 organizations that were donating solo cups weekly. And these organizations signed up. They wanted to donate their solo cups. We gave them a giant red bin. It looked like a giant red solo cup, actually. They would put their solo cups in there each week, and then we would come by, collect them, decontaminate them, and then process it with our machine. We received thousands of cups, just a few organizations. So we were definitely, in terms of volume, we were overwhelmed initially. But yeah, it was great to see that people, really wanted to do it. and we're so consistent in donating cups. And it kind of turned into a competition at the end between all the different organizations. So yeah, that's how we do it.
So my question is, like my curiosity, like how do you go from plastic to fabric?
Yeah, so I think, and this is something I don't think I ever really sat down and thought about. Definitely through this, I realized, how fabric is made. That's not something I ever knew before, but a lot of fabrics are made from the same things that plastics are made out of. For example, polyester, which is something we use so frequently, can be obtained from plastic water bottles because those are also the same chemical composition ultimately. So it's really about how chemists and scientists over the years have been able to repurpose plastic into various different forms. So whether that's like a hard container or a fiber, it's all about the processing in the manufacturing, but the core material itself may be exactly the same. But yeah, nylon, all of the synthetic fibers are, plastic ultimately, or polymers. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird to think about.
Yeah.
Next time you put on like a swimsuit or something, it's like, whoa, didn't ever think about that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
And my question for you, I don't know if this is like a clear-cut fashion industry question, but you created this startup as a student. So why do you think it seems difficult for other brands who are corporations to kind of be sustainable, especially if they have more money and more materials to work off from?
Yeah, so this is something I've actually had many conversations with various industry specialists with, and the fashion industry right now is under kind of a lot of attack for being so polluting. It's existed for forever. I think when you have factories and systems in place that have been around for hundreds of years, it's hard to incorporate sustainability by working backwards. I think it's way easier to start with sustainability rather than fix kind of a broken system. Literally, H&M just wrote a report entirely on how they're trying to push sustainability forward and how hard it is to work backwards within their supply chain. So I think since we considered sustainability at the beginning, it's something that's always been incorporated. But there are plenty of companies that are really trying to push this forward. I think Nike is a good example of, or Nike and Adidas are great examples of like companies that really focus on research and development. They've been doing a lot with plastic water bottle waste going into their shoes, things like that. So it's definitely possible. I just don't think it's accessible to the majority of apparel companies right now. And ultimately, it's just cheaper. It's cheaper to do things, from like raw materials since, if you are sourcing from and creating synthetic fibers and you're sourcing from oil right now is still a very cheap way to derive synthetic materials. So, yeah.
What is your end goal with the fabric that you create through the new norm? Like, are you guys looking to sell the fabric, or are you looking to be the sole users of that fabric to create fashion to sell?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I think the long-term goal is to make this fabric widely available to other people. Just to give you a sense of where we are right now, we're kind of starting back at like step one in terms of product development. We're doing a lot of lab testing with a textiles lab to kind of recreate our product from the ground up using industrial equipment. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, if we were able to scale up, that would be amazing. I think we are definitely right now trying to create a collection kind of as proof of concept that we can make apparel out of our material. So yeah, that's something we'll have to figure out and see, according to product development and things like that.
How has COVID impacted you guys as far as your progress, being able to work with materials that people are using on their mouths. Have you seen any drawbacks from that?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're gonna not collect in the fall. Don't want anyone getting COVID from a used solo cup. But at the same time, I really think COVID has brought a lot of benefits. It has given me time to kind of pause. I was really working on the machine nonstop this last year. And it gave me a second to pause and kind of step back and do some basic research again and look into the fine details. And that's ultimately, I think, one of the reasons I went back to ground zero in product development is because COVID gave me this pause from, working on the machine nonstop. I think it's just given us time. I think it gives us time to really optimize our collection process and be really prepared for when we can start up again. There are students that are at Hopkins that are going to continue the collection program, which is really exciting. So I think, we've made the most of it. We work online, work remotely.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, what has been one of your biggest challenges while working on this project?
The machine was definitely the first big challenge. I would say now, especially because I'm remote and the lab that I work with is across the country, it's just about waiting, which I'm so not. Just waiting for results. And then once you get the results and say it's not what you were expecting, having to figure out a solution without access to the labs that I had at school. I think that's been a really big change for me. And I think just getting used to that is, that's been a
Makes sense.
big thing.
Kind of continue on that line of like, even though you have your challenges, what might be one of the biggest rewards that you felt during this process?
I think sometimes it's easy to get lost in like, oh, we got to figure out this problem, we're having these issues. But I think what's helped me is like taking a step back and like even just looking at our fabric samples that we made, like that I wove earlier in the year. And it's like, I wove that, I made that. That's something tangible. And I think just kind of taking a step back and realizing how far this has gotten in the last year and the last 2 years has been really helpful.
Do you have any advice for any startups or entrepreneurs who are looking to get started in the fashion industry?
Yeah, so specifically the fashion industry. I really think it's important to know your customer and to know the market and the industry very well. So my background was I ran a swimwear company based out of LA for the last 4 years with my sister. And that was such a great experience for just really getting to know the LA fashion district inside out, knowing how to buy wholesale fabric, how to design something, understanding your customers. So I think, if someone is starting and wants to dive into the fashion industry, really knowing the trends. The fashion industry depends on, what's trending and what's going out of style. You need to know what companies want to sell to their customers. I think we also are, seeing a kind of new customer emerge, Gen Zs and millennials. People talk about it all the time. We are a very different consumer than the generation before us. And so just understanding how the person buying your product is thinking, I think that's really important.
I was just going to ask, like, what makes you the most passionate about this project?
I always knew I wanted to do something within sustainability. I knew that since a very young age. I went into this pizza place, and like the heat from their ovens was then like repurposed to like heat the rest of the building. And I was like, that's so cool. And I think like 12-year-old me still kind of exists. I think there's something about knowing that you can make an impact and knowing you're dedicating yourself that will help to something that will help other people. I think that's definitely what drives me. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So do you have any links, any Instagram or social media handles or things that you would want listeners to interact with after listening to this?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's called thenewnormbaltimore.com. And we also have an Instagram, which is thenewnorm_JHU, which kind of focuses on our Hopkins students who are interacting, with the actual collection program itself, collecting, decontaminating, that kind of stuff. We actually are about to start a little blog too on our website, which will give, more frequent updates than we were previously giving to people interested in our projects. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lauren. We really appreciate you coming on our podcast today to talk to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was good to see you both.